Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you guys how to do these beautiful two braids with extensions on your child. It is literally the best style because you don't have to worry about your child's hair and they have beautiful fun colors. So today we're going to be using about almost 2 packs of hair extension, braid hair extension, and we're going to get small little sections, and this is going to be the start of our braid. So slowly each time I'm just adding more sections, and for 2 rows of that braided hair rack that you see right over here, I'm putting 2 rows. One row is going to be on one side of the head and the other row is going to be on the other side of the head. So I'm just trying to make sure with each 2 strands that I make that they are very similar, the same size, and that's how I'm putting and separating each of the strands. I'm adding a little bit more onto the other side just in case if she wants it a long or thicker hair extensions on the head. Now we can work on the head. So you want to make sure you make a part using a rat tail comb straight in the middle. Then once you're done, you can use pomade all around the sides of the hairline, and then you can distribute the product with your rat tail comb and brush that through. I find the pomade for braiding specifically really helps and making it last so much longer and getting all of those flyaways. Make sure, since they are kids, you want to be very gentle, and especially when you brush, because I know some kids are super sensitive if they are tender-headed. Just be very mindful of that. If you need to brush the hair using some type of detangler beforehand, and then start from the bottom to the top, you can definitely do so. Now for the braid. From the very top, I got a small little section. We're gonna make that small section our middle strand, and then the 2 outer sections of the extension, the outer strands. And we're just gonna be braiding as if there is the cornrow braid, okay? But instead of using her actual hair, we're using the extensions. And you want to make sure as you braid, you're going to be adding hair before you start braiding underneath. So on each side, you want to make sure you add in her actual hair, and then you add some of the extension, and then you braid underneath just like so. The key to this is that you want to make sure your hands don't move and your hand is very sturdy, and that way it holds the braid really well. I realized as I was braiding, I put a little bit too much hair onto the strands, so that's why you see me separating. If you guys do this beforehand, you know how I was separating on the braid rack, you want to put a little bit less hair. It depends on if you guys want a thicker braid or less braid. For me, I wanted a little bit less hair on the top, so that's why I was separating it into even smaller sections. So yeah, it's a very repetitive process. You want to make sure as you're braiding, like I said, your hands are very close to the scalp. If you need to use a comb to really get more clean sections, you can do so. And then each time after you add her actual hair, you're going to be adding new extensions. Again, a reminder, I am getting smaller sections than what I anticipated. I should have put it way smaller instead of me holding the hair and then trying to separate the sections into smaller. It would be just so much easier if you prepare that beforehand. So my bad on that, guys, but as long as you understand what I'm doing here, just make sure your hand is also guiding that braid towards the middle of the head. And then each time I'm kind of flipping her actual hair because I don't want that hair to really be popping out like that. So I'm trying to get a lot of that extension to cover her actual hair because I really want the purple tinsel to be the more prominent, look to the braid. So like I said, as long as you are braiding underneath, you are making sure that you get clean parts, just like so. Sometimes I'm using my fingers, sometimes I'm using my comb. If you need to, you can definitely use some pomade and the pomade really makes the strands much more cleaner if need be. Making sure that your hand is super sturdy while the braid is forming. And then you just keep braiding and tucking her actual hair underneath each time. For those of you guys that have never braided with extensions and struggle to just do a simple cornrow or the 2 braids with the actual hair, I strongly suggest you guys to watch a video that I have. There's a couple videos. One of them, I have one for finger placement if you guys are struggling with what hair and what strand to put on what finger. I will link it down below on the description so you guys can take a look at that. This helps so much. And I will also advise, before adding extensions, I have to say, first try to do a simple braid. Now, if you can do a simple braid, 3-strand braid, then you can do the cornrow. And when you can do the cornrow, you can advance into adding these extension. It should be like advancing slowly. Because if you just do this without learning these other steps, it's like you don't have the foundation, right? And you want to slowly build to that. So, and I'll have other videos too that you guys can take a look that would help with the process of learning how to braid. It takes time, guys. You need to practice and give yourself grace. And I promise you, with enough practice, you will get to this point too, I promise. So just take your time, be easy on yourself, and you can also get to the point where you can add extensions. So anyways, now that we're at the nape of the head, we can go ahead and make sure that everything is super tight. Your hand is so close to the nape of the head. You want to make sure in each time you're braiding, you want to make sure that the actual hair is underneath the extensions. There's a couple reasons for that. When you put the actual hair underneath the extensions, it will last longer. You want that hair to be like protecting your actual hair, so it can last so much longer. It looks nicer too when all of the color is showing versus the natural hair, unless that's what you're looking for, because some people really like the natural hair peeking out of the braids. So it definitely is up to you on how you want to do that. And make sure, because I know sometimes people have like, once they get to the nape area of braiding, it kind of will sag if you don't do it correctly. You want to make sure your hands are as close as you can to the forming braid, close to the scalp. It is extremely important. And if you need to use products, please do so, because that way you'll have a really nice braid close to the scalp and you won't have that sagginess on the bottom. I will say too, the more practice you do, it'll be better. And just be as close as you can to the scalp, because that's literally the number one problem that I see that a lot of people are struggling with. Now, the more hair extension you put, the more of that color is going to be popping out and really showing prominently. Also, before you start braiding, you can take a look at the person's head, your little child, and you can determine, okay, does my child have little hair? Do they have a lot of hair? If they have a lot of hair, then you know maybe to put more extensions than someone that doesn't have that much hair, if you want that color to really pop out. For my little client right over here, she had a lot of hair, so I wanted to make sure that the color was gonna pop out. So I put a lot more extension than I had anticipated, because I wanted to really pop out. And be sure to be putting the extension each time through on both sides of the braids. And voila, I have a whole crochet method of tying, covering the elastic. It is like the best tool ever if you guys want to like hide an elastic at the bottom. It's a lifesaver, so check that out. I know I was like talking about the braids because it's really important. This is like, I know the struggle for a lot of people is like the start. So like I said, just take your time with it. The beginning is a little bit hard. Please check out the videos I've told you guys before if this is a little bit of a struggle for you. Like I said, take a look at that. practice, and then you can get to the point where you can put the extensions. But yeah, again, let me repeat one more time how I do this. I get a small little strand just like so. I get my little strand because I messed up and I got too much of the strand, the extension. And then I'm just braiding my 3-strand braid. Instead of actual hair, I'm using the extensions as my part of the 3 legs. And then each time I'm adding her hair, and then I'm adding the small strand extensions. And then I'm doing the same thing on the other side, adding her hair, and then adding a strand again, just like so. And then I'm just braiding underneath. You want to make sure that you're braiding underneath so it really holds that extension. I find with the French braid, it doesn't do it like that and it doesn't hold very well. So it is really important that you make sure when you're braiding that you're braiding under each time. And if you need to, you can definitely add smaller strands. So that way the braids come out way more cleaner. And really the key to all of this is your hand position and where all of the hair is going. So make sure that hand is as close to the scalp as possible, okay? And then just braid underneath each time. And it's really easy once you practice it a couple of times. You want to make sure as you braid, you're not pulling so tight because again, we are braiding on a child. You want to be very gentle and, do it with love. And that way it's still going to be nice and tight, but not so tight that your child is it's like hurting them. So be very careful, be gentle. And you will get to the point that it just will become like second nature if you practice all the time. If you guys need to, I would even recommend getting like a doll head, practice on a doll head all the time. And that way you can feel more comfortable with actually doing it on your child. So I hope this is helpful for you guys. I do want to mention too, for the hair extensions, it's Kanekalon braid hair extension. You want to make sure the extension you get is tapered at the bottom. This specific extension you can find on my website, everylittlestrand.com. I will also link it down below my description so you can take a look at that as well. It's so cute and has so much tinsels and it's perfect for kids. So I gotta put the plug in for that. But yeah, take your time. If you need to use a comb, do so. Like I said, if you need to put product, please do so. And smaller sections would be the key, really. And as long as you're hiding all of that hair, it is literally the best because you can really see the color pop out of the braids. So yeah, guys. All right, now that we're all done with the braids, what I like to do is I dip the ends of the braids in boiling hot water. Now, if you're a beginner, you don't have to do this. I just really like how the braids look when I dip it in hot boiling water. It is super dangerous, so like I said, you have to do this a couple of times for good practice, but especially with kids, you want to be very careful. So if you're a beginner, I would suggest not to do this. but you can see right over here that the ends of the braids become really flexible, not stiff anymore, and more softer on the skin. It just completes the look and make it last longer. Now I just go ahead, finish off with a hairspray to make it last long and get all those like little extra little frizzies. And then I just show her mom how to make the braids last. If you have a silky bonnet, silky scarf, something that's silky to keep the hair maintained for the couple of days that she's gonna keep this, she can keep it for a week. If she takes good care of it, wrapping up at night, you literally have to crisscross the ends and put it on top and then wrap it up in a silky bonnet. That way the braids can last a very long time. So if you also want to put some mousse on it, that way it can last longer, you could totally do that. But this is the finished look, guys. I hope you guys found this video super helpful. Please subscribe and like to this channel. And if you have any questions, please feel free to comment down below. I'll see you guys for the next video. Bye, guys.